Welcome, swaggers, to the channel. As I said before, we're bringing back SCPs and the creepypastas. Today, it's SCP time. Welcome to the SCP files. Today, SCP-610 or 610, however you want to say it. Object Class: Critter. Special Containment Procedures. Due to the vast area of infection SCP-610 covers, containment is impossible. Isolation of the area has proven far more effective, and permission has been granted by the Russian government to establish a perimeter to keep people out of these areas. Under the guidance of military operations, should any organism display traits consistent with SCP-610 be sighted near this perimeter, then the established protocol requires it to be engaged at a range with a small arms until immobile. Then dispatched using incendiary weapons and munitions from a great distance as possible. Any living thing coming in physical contact with an organism infected with SCP-610 is considered expendable and is to be immediately terminated and incinerated. Any person coming within 3 meters of SCP-610 infected life are to immediately withdraw from the area, be isolated from the rest of their team, and subjected to medical examination, using only remote techniques to determine if infection has occurred, and appropriate steps taken based on the determination. At present, the known infection vectors of SCP-610 spread seems to focus on physical contact. Drone movement within heavily infected areas have returned air supplies containing minute particulate, which, when exposed to organic compounds, will result in an SCP-610 spread. The result of these particular tests have given most require several days to manifest, if at all, with the exception of direct contact with exposed lung and liver tissue. These particular tests show a rapid growth, which requires incineration of the testing environment no less than 24 hours after initial exposure, with even a 2-hour mishap risking a compromised facility event. Given that this kind of rapid growth only occurs in organic material existing outside the human body, this form of infection is at current considered a minor concern. These particularities have given rise to a series of questions regarding the possible origin of the infection. In conjuncture with the failed data expunged, containment protocol remains at a scorched earth policy. At this time, and no concern of transmission via water or air at infection perimeters exist, bearing situational changes in the field. Description: initial reports of SCP-610 came direct from the Russian government through undisclosed channels. These reports consisted primarily of disappearances of farmers in the region and were not considered until the local police followed by the regional police, and finally a government dispatch agent. All failed to report it within a 72-hour period. All failed to report in within a 72-hour period. A small military contingent was dispatched to the area and quickly withdrew, at which point the Foundation was contacted to investigate. The area SCP-610 infects is close to Lake Baikal in southern Siberia. Area of known infection are marked on the map provided to us here. Containment perimeters are marked in blue surrounding these infected areas. As the present, no further locations have been identified. Incursions to the perimeter must be reported prior to conducting, confirmed during exploration, and if debriefed on immediately following return. SCP-610 appears to be a contagious skin disease, at first with symptoms including rash, itching, and increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours, the disease will cause blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue to form in the chest and arm area, spreading to the legs and back within an additional hour, consuming the victim completely within 5 hours. Exposure to high temperatures vastly decreases the time for contagion to spread in complete infections. And complete infections have been recorded occurring in as little as 5 minutes. After completion of the infection occurs, the victim's life functions will cease for approximately 3 minutes, after which they will restart at 2 to 3 times the activity of normal human. Following this, the scar tissue on the victim will start to move on its own accord and grow at a rapid rate. Normal human features start to disappear at this point. Under the infection, and the passive mutation appears to be largely random. Subjects observed in this stage of infection have been recorded as growing 3 or more limbs of a type such as arms or legs. The head may become misshapen, misshapen, or elongated, or widened, and parts of the subject may split open. From additional breaches of the flesh will grow. The duration of this stage of infection is unknown, and not all subjects appear to progress in the later stages. Under unknown conditions, an infected individual will cease moving and place itself in a location it deems suitable, where it roots itself. The fleshy growth on the victim will then begin to spread itself across all surrounding objects and consume them. Such objects do not spread the infection as living creatures do, however, and the effect of prolonged contact with these objects is recorded later in this document. It is assumed that this behavior is to create an area hospitable to be continued growth of the other infected. Observation of life infected by SCP-610 by staff is impossible. These infected with the disease immediately seek out aid as natural human impulse, resulting in unintended infection. Those infected past the scar tissue phase actively and aggressively attempt to infect anyone approaching them within an unidentified area. It has been established that should an infected be capable of sight and observe an uninfected, it will proceed toward them. If the infected has lost the ability of sight, a range of approximately 30 meters is considered safe. Observation of SCP-610 infected settlements have been established using artificial methods, such as remote robots and data returned from these observations, coupled with the openly aggressive nature of the infected, as an attempt to spread SCP-610 as was resulted in the critter classification. However, so long as nothing is allowed to enter or leave the infected area, it is considered a neutralized threat. Of certain of this carnivorous area beneath the infected settlement that was discovered during the exploration and attempt to research personnel on these areas are underway. There are now 6 logs categorized between SCP-610-L1 to SCP-610-L6. SCP-610 has been expunged. The following is what the document says. The following field report is for Class A or higher personnel only. Unauthorized viewing of this field is strictly prohibited and will be considered a violation of Foundation contracts and a breach of international law. The description of this expunged data is exploration recording records of operation. Source point. From SCP-610-L1, the description is: a small report controlled rover is sent to Site A to locate missing personnel. An infected D-Class SCP-610-L2 reads: an infected D-Class personnel is sent into Site C with video equipment. SCP-610-L3 description: initial discovery of the tunnel entrance at Site A. SCP-610-L4 description: unmanned exploration of Site A tunnels. SCP-610-L5 description: manned exploration of Site A tunnels. I will now read the first log. SCP-610-L1. After establishing containment perimeter of SCP-610, the Russian government approved our request to research and investigate the area. For the first such exploration, a small camera-mounted unit known as a Herbie was dispatched at a safe distance and directed towards Site A. Herbie, with a battery life of 12 hours and controlled range far wider than that required for this dispatch, Herbie is able to enter Site A without incident. The landscape around Site A shows early stages of assimilation by singular SCP-610 infected, who have fallen at largely random intervals around what remains of the village. Many of the homes appear to have suffered fire damage long since put out. However, a fair amount remain intact. Aerial reconnaissance of Site A, combined with thermal imaging, has put it at an estimated population of 79 infected, and mobile infected are included in the number. However, it is difficult to ascertain an exact percentage of mobile versus immobile. Varying degrees of physical mutation due to SCP-610 are present in Site A, and it is assumed that all inhabitants are in advanced stages of infection. Herbie observed the exterior of the village for 2 hours, during which time all infected behaved with what appeared to be a loose sense of social structure. Because Herbie remained stationary during this observation period, it is unknown previously what each individual infected person was doing. However, the central plaza experienced occasional bursts of activity and downtime. Requiring more information, Herbie was directed to follow an infected as it entered a home. There is a bumpy camera feed as Herbie scoots over the gravel behind the quickly scrabbling infected person. The interior of this home is the same as that attached to the primary file for SCP-610. The infected being trailed at the one sitting at the table. After entering the home, Herbie's camera was raised slowly as it not drawn attention. This action was either unnoticed or ignored. The infected person is watched from the doorway as it hobbles around the home and stops at each of the other visible infected organisms. However, it appears to ignore the one under the table, which, while not immobile, does not leave that area. What this creature was before infection is unclear. After lapping the table and repeating this procedure 3 times, the primary infected person, known as Alpha, henceforth, stops at the bedridden infected known as Beta, and proceeds to assault it with furious punches. Beta is unable to leave the bed for unknown reasons, but is not completely immobile, as it fails its body in response to the beatings delivered by Alpha. After several sustained minutes of this beating, a piercing sound explodes from the area around Beta, who then proceeds to project a cloud of unknown matter into the air from its chest cavity. Alpha lingers in the cloud as it floats in the air around it, slowly descending to the ground. The unknown life form on the table beside Beta begins to twitch at an apparent seizure, and Alpha then laps the room twice more, stopping again at each infected organism, but still ignoring the one under the table, as well as Beta now. After these laps, Alpha seats itself at the table and reaches out to position the 3 plates atop it as if setting a dinner set. After the plates are positioned, the facial tendrils extending from Alpha wingle up and start to coil on one of the plates before tearing apart and separating. This is repeated at each plate, and the image attached to SCP-610's primary file is a still image of this occurrence. After each plate is filled with Alpha's flesh, it leaves the table and approaches Humvee, which is moved from Alpha's path. Alpha leaves the home, but Humvee's camera remains focused on the table. After several minutes, a group comprised of 6 or 7 infected enter the room from outside, still ignoring Herbie. Each infected shambles as if movement is difficult, jerking in large steps or squirming in small ones. These infected all surround the table, and each takes turns grabbing handfuls of flesh substance left behind by Alpha, pressing it into whatever orifice on them that they can. Some into mouths, some into the chest, some behind their backs, some under the arms. When all the plates are empty, this group leaves. Herbie remains here for several more minutes before retracting its camera and leaving. When it seems no further activity will occur here. Immediately after leaving the home, Herbie collides with an object, panning the camera around the obstruction occurs to be Alpha, whose facial tendrils are intermingling with another infected. After several mutations, the impact is ignored and the two infected part ways after several minutes. Herbie is then directed to explore more areas of the village. The remains of what appears to have been store shows signs of several fire damage as well as activity inside the building, which Herbie moves to investigate. The door is slightly ajar, and with firm movements of Herbie, it is pushed open. No notice is taken of this action, or it is ignored. Inside the store are several infected persons, most of whom are standing around. However, one is on the ground rolling back and forth over the space of approximately 0.3 meters or 1 foot, and is ignored by the others. Herbie rolls under the divider, separating the cashier area from the custom area, and pans around behind the counter. The upper half of a person is protruding from the cellar door behind the counter. This person does not appear to be suffering from advanced infection and wears the grab of a Russian soldier. Herbie zooms the camera in to confirm identification and it is noticed the eyes of the person are in constant movement. After often focusing on Herbie, the rest of the soldier does not move. Herbie is directed to leave this area and proceeds to the back room. In this storage area, a large pile of bodies are stacked together. Some pieces of clothing are visible and appear to contain both military garb and everyday clothing. No facial features are discernible on any of the bodies, due to the way they are stacked. Atop the bodies, an infected sits, occurring to have its lower parts fused to the pile with its upper half, in a wild state of flailing and seizure. Approximately every 10 seconds, a burst of spores flies out of the top of this infected, which linger in the air. Herbie is directed to leave the building. After leaving the building, Herbie passes by the village, well surrounded, which are a series of immobile infected, all facing the well. The arm of each of these infected persons are stretched out, one in contact with the next, forming a perfect chain. Save for one whose arm is down and its sides. Herbie passes by the last infected to approach, which appears to have been a town hall or mayor's building. When the infected becomes mobile and snatches up the rover up. Video feed from Herbie focuses on the face of the infected, which is strangely in perfect shape, given the condition of the rest of its body, which is horribly bloated. This infected was once a young girl from appearance, age estimated 10 to 12. Herbie is rolled side to side in its grip, as its face stares motionless at the rover. The infected's face suddenly balloons in size and explodes outwards in a series of fleshy flaps that grips Herbie and draws it inside. Herbie video feed terminates here. Herbie was considered lost at this point. However, no one at control remembered to turn off the video feed, assuming it cut. 5 hours later, Herbie's video feed resumed, stationary and at a raised level, pointing at the upper rim of the village well. The video feed contains some some blur due to what appears to be a slimy fur film which often oozes across the lens, but when not obscured provides perfect quality recording. Herbie does not respond to any remote commands, but its video jerks back and forth from target to target, zooming in and out of its own accord. Video feed is cut manually, and all connections to Herbie's unit are ordered erased. That was SCP-610, Part 1. The next parts will contain the logs SCP-610-L2, SCP-610-L3, and the next parts after that, 610-L4 and 610-L5. Thank you for watching SCP files. Hoped you liked it, and have an awesome day. But anyway, we got 3 more videos of this, hopefully, maybe 2. And as I always said, I love doing this. So if you're still there and you're still watching, thank you. And have a great day.